Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Trauma and Friends We Made Along the Way podcast. This podcast is going to focus on a series of events that caused a group of women, who otherwise would have never met each other, into joining a cult. This cult involved scams, makeup, and murder. Each episode, we will have a different guest that will come on and discuss their individual experiences within this organization. We will also be discussing themes of trauma and emotional abuse. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome to the fourth episode of the Trauma and Friends We Made Along the Way podcast. This one is going to be called Safe Spaces on the Internet, and I'll get into what that means here in a second. But I'm Persephone, and I have my co-host Jess here with me today. And we want to thank everyone who's been listening and sharing. I've not done a recent count since we just had an episode drop last week, but we have added some more states to who have listened to us. We're up to roughly almost 40 states. So we've almost hit all 50 states in the United States, plus some other countries such as France, England, and Singapore. So thanks to everybody who's been listening and sharing. We've also been getting a ton of messages through TikTok and Instagram, as well as our email, sharing their stories, screenshots of things. And we're going to be adding on some episodes probably towards the end. We're going to do seasons of 5 episodes each. So keep an eye out on our socials for what the schedule is going to look like. For that, we will also be doing little mini episodes that maybe, less than 5 minutes long with just blurbs and things that people send us that don't necessarily require a full episode. So this has grown in a lot of ways we didn't expect it. And we want to thank everybody who's been contributing to that.
Yep. Thank you guys. And we got a lot more to come.
So yeah, a lot. It's never ending.
Nope.
But today we have Jessica and Carrie who are coming here to talk about the safe spaces on the internet. So, talking about finding those places that you feel welcome, that you feel like you can be yourself, not a lot of issues and drama, bringing people together, and kind of how this space, starting off so inclusive, was able to get so many of us involved. And that's going to be our theme today. And Jessica volunteered to kind of go first and give us a little bit about herself and her time in the group.
Well, I'm Jessica, and I guess you would say I am one of the OGs. I started off in the Fandom of the Month Club group, and then saw the invite to the lovely group that led to all this. And it was like, honestly, it's kind of dorky to say, but it was a safe place. Like, it started off as something that was really cool, to where that's where I spent all my extra time, like on social media and stuff. I was in that group bonding with everyone else because we all were there for like a purpose. We all had different nerdy interests centered around these two people, basically. And we built bonds. I mean, there were so many meetups and just different things and games, and people shared their lives there. We became, oddly, this family from multiple different states, and people went through, pregnancy, losses, surgeries, all weddings, like all kinds of things together. And we mourned different people together, and it was something that was really cool that turned out to just be a big slap in the face in the end. I mean, lots of friendships were gained, and I'm very thankful for those friendships, but how we were basically used during that time when it all came out it's kind of crazy to look back on all of it, and you kind of see like it all starts making sense in the end, and you're just like, wow, you were preyed on by people who took your kindness for granted. And I think that's, the biggest thing, which I think shows for a lot of people. I would say probably the majority of the people in the group were just selfless to a fault. And that, creates great people. Like that's why we still have so many bonds together and everything. And so many meetups happen because of it. And in the end, we all came back together because we were hurt and just used by people we thought were close friends to a lot of them. But yeah, so that's kind of like my intro into everything. Starting off, like I said, from pretty much day one, I was there with a lot of like the main people and everything, being a part of all the stuff. And I even did a meetup. I met you and in Kentucky and with a lot of other girls. And that's one of my fond memories, and I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful for the safe space we did had for that little bit of time before it kind of imploded on everyone, unfortunately. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate
Mhm.
it. Yeah. Carrie, do you want to give us some insight into your time into the group?
Yeah, I was not there from the beginning. I got invited by a friend of mine who's local to me, who was in it. She introduced me to the subscription box and everything. And I'm not really an outgoing person. So just where that group felt safe enough for me to open up to people and make friends and be more involved than I am in any other group on Facebook. It really says a lot about how it was at the beginning. But I mean, I even remember inviting people in myself, and now that's kind of a regret just because of how everything went down in the end. I There was so much good in the beginning.
Mhm.
Just people supporting each other, raising money for people when they were struggling, and we did. I remember gift exchanges that we signed up for and did, and people doing like happy boxes to send
Yeah.
gifts to people who needed you know, a lift. I
Yeah.
miss that part of it.
hmm I distinctly remember the Hufflepuff Happy Boxes. I did a couple
Mhm.
of those. I actually organized multiple of the gift exchanges myself and did the time for that, and even made a separate group for sending holiday cards like for
Mhm.
every month and spent time doing that. So yeah, those were like so many things we did. Like just that led to like all these bonds and friendships and safe places.
Mhm.
Yeah. I miss the gift exchange, like the Secret Santas and
Yes.
stuff. I loved
Mhm.
doing that because people would make things. I still have a couple things people made me
Mhm.
from those gift exchanges, and it's those are the things that I won't get rid of because it wasn't the triplets who made them or anything. It
Mhm.
was those other people who spent time and energy to do that, and those it was nice, especially when you don't have a lot of family and stuff, to get those kinds of very thoughtful, personal items.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
still have like a box of all the cards from the card exchanges I did. I still have multiple things from the Christmas gift exchanges, even God, we did a few of them. I think there was a Halloween themed one too that
There was.
yeah, so there were so many like different things. And you know, it was a group of very crafty people as well. And
Yeah.
so a lot of the people in the group were so talented when it came to
Mhm.
the different art forms that people would do and put together. And it'd be so cool just seeing all the different talented people and do their craft. And then you have a piece of that as well. And so, like, even in my office till this day, I have a lamp somebody made that's Ariel themed. And traveled with me to every job I've gone to. That's just my little office lamp. So, I mean, yeah, you have those little good memories, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but what were some of the main aspects, and whoever wants to answer both can, that made you feel the safest in that group? Was it certain people? Was it the activities? What was it that made you feel so secure to be that involved?
I think a lot of it was the people. There were a lot of just genuinely kind people, people that I'm still friends with today, that just really made you feel welcome and safe. And I think all the activities helped with, encouraging people to be engaged. I know the house cup thing was a lot of fun. There was drama, but it was still a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely the games, the house cup, crazy fun. I fortunately and unfortunately was deep in a part of that because I was a prefect for one of the houses, and so heavily involved in all the behind the scenes stuff as well. um, but that was really fun. Even, a couple other people organized games when I don't know if any of you were ones that got the random card in the mail and you were assigned a different group to do that, and then I did one of a random 100 people and organized with different people behind the scenes and sent out random messages of we're doing X, Y, and Z, like to the point, like where people come together. Something like when I came up with the idea for it, I reached out like, who wants to do volunteers for this, and this, and I had people like finding out, this person lives in this state. What are some statues or whatever there so they can do these activities to like move on and meet all these goals. And it was just so much fun seeing it all come together and everybody excited that it's happening. And we're like, oh my God, we're playing a game. And that was definitely a fun part of it. And the people that you shared, and like, being a part of the house cup too, and being in your separate houses and building those bonds with your house. Like it kind of was like a little Hogwarts thing because everybody became super close. Well, I can speak for myself and our group, like became very close in our little Hufflepuff house and built those relationships and things as well.
Yeah, I loved having the subgroups, especially because you had not just your houses, but you had like certain different fandoms, like when Animal Crossing came out, because this was towards the end of when the groups were like, there was an Animal Crossing group, and, people would share their codes and you'd go visit them and, send each other things that way. There were subgroups for, Star Wars and all these different things. So you could talk about specific stuff. So, you had so many areas of connection that even if you didn't always do stuff in the main group, you had I think I ended up deleting like 10 to 20 different subgroups I was still in by the time this was over. I only kept a couple that, weren't causing a lot of anxiety because the other people weren't in it. But I mean, I was in so many groups that it was like so many notifications, like on my breaks or when I got off work, and you'd go and you'd catch up for the end of the day. And, you had people you're meeting in real life plus all these other things. And then you're talking to them on Messenger, and, some people eventually got your cell phone number and you're texting them. And so you were always in connection with someone or something that was related to that group.
Yep.
And I've had so many people comment on our last video about they miss getting off work and going and seeing what has happened in the group that day, or what's starting to happen in the group that day. Like, what are we doing this evening? Like, is there a fun thing? Is there a poll? Is there a challenge? And, even outside of the house cup, what are we doing? What subject is it? Is it a new movie? Like, just, it could have been anything, but there was always some contact, always.
Yeah.
Yeah, sense of community was built in within the group. So I guess, what was it that you guys felt helped draw you in most, that made this a safe space for you? Was it the activities in particular? Was it people that you felt connected to on that personal level, or like something in particular?
I think for me, I'm naturally like an empath person. Like I'm empathetic to a lot of different people and different things. And seeing, people's stories come out and everybody's sharing, things they're going through, and knowing that, wow, they feel really safe sharing these things with these other people. That helped me come out of my shell and made me feel safe, because seeing everybody's support in those comments when people are posting like these, very personal things, and, you know, 20, 50 people, hundreds of people posting and commenting and like just encouraging them, and like, what do you need? I'm here to support. Here's my contact. Here's this, and it's just like, wow, these people, generally care about each other. And that for me was when I was just like, this is a good place to be, because these are strangers on the internet, like for the most part. As it got more popular, people invited their friends in real life and stuff like that. But most of the time, none of us had met each other yet, and still supporting complete strangers. And that was just like, wow, I have more support in this little community than I do in my own like real life. Like, this is crazy. And so that for me was when it was just like, this is where I want to be. This is where I'm having a bad day. Or, if I'm having a good day and I want to share something fun, or I know I can just go to the group and be like, there's going to be something there that's going to be like, yay, it's going to be happy, cheery, somebody's doing something fun. Or if I need somebody to support, here's X amount of people I can reach out to instantly. And I know I'll get a response from one of them.
Yeah, it was definitely, the people. There was, always something to make you smile, or, someone that was being supported and encouraged. And so many people were able to build businesses, from that group with the people that were supporting them. Even I did for a little while. And
yeah, same. I did, I think 3 Christmases, I did ornaments, like out of the blue. It was just like something. I'm like, oh, I did this craft. People are like, I want to buy that. And I'm like, what? You want to buy that? Like, okay. Well, and that just kind of like blew up. And so it became a thing. I did it like, I think 3 years in a row for the holidays, making different fandom Christmas ornaments that people, and it was literally because of the group. They completely supported that and kind of launched it out there to where it was worth the time and the investment to do it. But yeah, definitely. So many people had group businesses doing this.
people even sent stuff for my daughter. And it was just, it's hard to put into words how much stuff like that can mean.
Yeah. I mean, the business aspect of it too, like sending things to people, supporting people in their creative small businesses, I think was such a hallmark of this group, because like when I got married, half my wedding stuff was made by members of the group. My flowers are made by members of the group. That included like the boutonnieres and the table decorations, like I had people make stickers, like I had Father's Day gifts made by some people, because my dad really likes animation and things. So I had people, make things for him. I bought stuff for my siblings all the time through people in the group, because it was so unique and it was something you can't just go buy at the store. And, Etsy was kind of around, but it hadn't really quite kicked up yet. And, and a lot of people preferred to sell to us because they knew who we were. There was less stress versus selling on Etsy, and you're not getting like taxed and feed to, Kingdom Come. You're able to just sell it one-on-one. And we also understood if there were delays at the time. That devolved later, but like in the beginning, we all understood this was our side business and everything else. But like there were even things I bought from people in that group I didn't necessarily need, because I wanted to support them in that endeavor, or like I knew they were going through a hard time and this was going to help them with like some bills, because most people weren't asking for charity. Like when people needed help, they were like, I make this item, or I can do this for you. Are you willing to purchase this, and I
Mhm.
think most of us really did that. I've got like headbands people made. I've bought
Yeah.
hairpins and other jewelry and all this other stuff because we needed to help and support each other. And so, I even had a business that started, like it's still continuing, but I think that was also an aspect is we got very involved financially with each other. And I've often wondered if because E and M saw us doing that, if that's why they thought we were easier to take advantage of,
Mm.
because they saw us buying things from other people and they thought, why aren't they doing that with us? Because we were already buying the subscription boxes. That's how most of us found that group in general. So I've often thought if like them seeing us buying it from other group members is one of the reasons why they took it to that level and started trying to sell us private things like the cups and the other different stuff they were doing in this other side groups that came later. Because for whatever reason, I guess selling the subscription boxes and then eventually the makeup wasn't enough and they needed to do more, and it went from there. Like that's something that I've often kind of back of my mind.
That's,
Yeah.
that's a good thing to put together.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, seeing us spend I don't want to say so much money, but supporting each other, buying each other's things and items, are just like, we can cash in on that.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
I think it touched on a conversation that Persephone, you and I had recently on this idea of community. And I think that that's why it's so important to kind of like really express to people that this was a safe space and that we all felt included. And even if you weren't there or active all the time or whatever, you knew at the end of the day, you could always go home to this place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that at the end of the day is like it's really hard to find that kind of community in general. I think the internet has made that easier, but I think it also has taken some of the personal out of it, because I think to touch on something you said earlier, Jessica, that like really like personal aspect of it where you're really connecting with people. But I think for some of the people, specifically the two that started the shenanigans and destroyed a lot, I think that there was that lack of personal, that lack of connection, or maybe they just saw people on the other end of the screen and decided that that was something that they wanted to ruin for whatever reason. But I think at the end of the day that I think that a lot of us are very genuinely lucky to have found that type of space, because I think for a lot of us, I think it saved a lot more people than we even like to think sometimes. In that, like, you had a community to go to. You had people who knew or were there to support, and they didn't want anything from you for it. They were like, yeah, no, I'm here for you. It's all good. Like, don't worry about it, right? And, like, I think that in and of itself, in this day and age, can be hard to find in person. But I think that we were all very, very lucky to have that safe space for the time period that we did. And I think that that's part of why it's so devastating to everybody, is that it sucks that was poison from the inside out so thoroughly.
yeah. But like for more people to like to the point we felt so safe that majority of us had each other's addresses.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
I don't anymore, but when I ran my, card group, I had easily 150 addresses of people. So, because when we would divide groups, every time we would change it up. And so this is your assigned 10 group. Like, these were people who were just like, yep, I trust you. Here is my home address. And we would, there was a group sheet kept for this, just for gifting people boxes and things like that. Like, I multiple times had random things just show up to my place. It was just like, oh, somebody sent me something nice. Like, oh, that's sweet. Like, for no reason whatsoever. Like, and I would do the same for people. And it was just that unspoken kindness and trust that we had for one another, that we're like, yeah, so and so, I've never met them, but yeah, they can have my address, no big deal. Like,
Yeah.
Well, and not only just the address, right? Like, I've met one of the girls that I'm still very close to down in Arizona. I've met her kids. I've like
Yeah.
I've like we we've chit-chatted. I sent her stuff specifically for her kids, like, because it's how close we got, right? And like, not only did we know each other, well, I think she's moved, but we knew each other's addresses and like what was going on in each other's lives to such a deep extent that on some level, for certain people, you knew that if you rocked up, you'd be welcome in like it was your home.
Yeah.
And that's a rare thing to find, not only in your daily life, but especially somewhere on the internet where these are strangers that you could trust effectively with your life.
Yeah.
And
So good.
like, I just was thinking about like the meetup we had in Kentucky, and for me to like, one of the key things that you're from the group is the Marauders map scarf. Like, that was a coveted item to have. And it was just like, no, you're not a part of this group unless you have this scarf. And if anybody
Yeah.
had any of that scarf, it was just like, yeah, you're part of the group. Like, that's like the
We've
lore
got
on
the
the
group
scarf
picture.
alone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you had the group picture, like I think almost all of us had it. I actually just recently threw mine away because I was like, I don't want it anymore. But like there were certain hallmarks of things, like the certain items that you got. And it was, I won't say clique because I think clique has a negative connotation, but it was definitely a very insular group. Like at that meetup, one of the girls who I'd never met before stayed at my apartment because she couldn't stay at the Airbnb. And she's like, "Do you mind if I stay in your guest room?" And I was like, "That's fine." I gave her the extra key and she was like coming in and out of my apartment. And my now ex-husband was like, "Are you sure about this?" I'm like, "Oh, it's fine." And it was fine, obviously, but he's just kind of like, these are strangers on the internet. But okay, and he trusted my judgment. But and we're all millennials here, where we grew up with the stranger danger and the advent of the internet, where you had to be careful of like the chat rooms and all that. But for some reason, this group felt so different than any other group you'd really been in because of the level of openness and honesty. Like when I was going through my divorce, you all were some of the only people who knew that was going on versus my real life, because there was so much, like, I felt so much shame to talk about it to my in real life people, especially like family, because you get some negative feedback from that. But I could tell the group because enough of the people had been through relationship issues and other similar issues, so I felt comfortable sharing that in a way with those people that I know it's not going to go anywhere else. I know it's not going to become a gossip topic somewhere in my real life where then I'm like constantly wondering what's going on. And I loved that meetup so much. And like, I wish there'd been more, in this area, because it's hard to always travel. But, it was so nice to just meet everybody. And some of the girls even brought their kids.
Yeah.
The girls who
Like,
were close enough brought their children.
like
Yeah.
I came with my best friend because one of the girls from the group, me and her were going to ride together, and she got in a car wreck, like on like the way to pick me up. Like,
Oh my God.
car not drivable. She was fine, and it was like last minute thing. And my friend was just like, "Let's go," and I'm like, "Really?" And like she came down there with me, and let's see, what was that? What, 2016 when we did it?
2017. So I
2017.
just gotten married like 3 weeks before.
So like
So yeah.
2 years later, my best friend that went with me unexpectedly passed away, and girls from the group and the meetup were just like, "Oh my God, she was so nice." And I'm like, they, remembered my friend, and that connect. That's when it's just like, this is your community, because they reached out to me more than the people in my actual life every day when that happened. And so it's just like, this was a real, true, just safe place community.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember when I was moving, I went and lived in England for 2 years, and before I went, I phoned one of the girls from Arizona, and I was like, should I do? I'm terrified. She's like, what do you have to lose? And I was like, I guess you're right. Like, you had these connections that were solid and you trusted, and like, I think a lot of us are still lucky to be able to have some of that. But at the same time, it is like, in a word, and the one word is not enough, but it's devastating to know how poisoned it was from the inside out, because how good and how safe of a space it was. You had people who were comfortable within their sexuality and discussing all of that and discovering themselves. You had people who were comfortable discussing and coming out with their relationship issues, or like what they were going on, or like if they were in a really deep dark place, they knew that there was somebody that they could go to. And I think having that is such an important thing for people. And I think that that's why I still have anger towards the situations, because this was ripped from so many people.
Yeah.
And it was ripped so harshly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's devastating. And I wish there was a better word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I distinctly remember there was a night where someone was not in a good mental space in a group, and like people made wellness calls and for like them to go check on that person. Like that's how like important, we were to each other. It's just like, nope, this is not, we're going to make sure that you are okay. Like, and
I was just thinking about
when
that.
you
Yeah.
said that, we don't realize how many people were probably saved by the group. It's true. Like, it's 100% true.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
wellness checks were like, I remember so many of them, like, or people or like send memes, I'm sad, even the woman who ended up unaliving her husband, like she was messaging that night, and fortunately for her own selfish reasons, but she was even messaging because she knew we would support her, because she's worried about, I'm using worried very loosely, her husband being missing and not responding, because she knew we had done that for other people, up until that point. That was something that was very common in the group. If, there were a few times I messaged, like, I'm just not in a good place today, like, distract me, send me something, talk to me. And people would private message me, or they would check on me the next day. Like, there are still some people from the group who do that. If I make a post on my personal page, I will still get messages from a handful of group members who be like, hey, are you all right? Do you need to talk about something? And I'm here if you need to, because that's the level of care people actually had.
To have that space, like in general, like
No.
I wasn't ever really comfortable voicing, but at the time, specifically in that like 2016 to like 2019 space, I was going through a lot within my personal life, and I didn't really feel comfortable coming out of my shell enough to talk, but I knew that there was the group there, and that having that to go on to and lose yourself in every day, and see everybody and go, no, it's okay, it's going to be okay. We've got all of these strong people who not only you've seen go through a lot, but they are still here and they're still okay. It's going to be okay. And you had that, and just being able to go in there and see that, and even just feel the community was life-saving, to say the least.
Yeah. One thing, like, I've often thought about too, is all the people who kind of went completely off the grid from other group, like when this all fell apart, the end of 2021, beginning of 2022. There were a lot of people who just disappeared. They either got rid of their socials or blocked, because for their mental health, they had to block everybody, even if it was someone positive. I've been told by other group members, like, that's happened quite a bit. Like, there are several. And, I often wonder, about them, and like hope that they've found another safe space, because, like, timeline wise, this was during COVID too, like when we were all isolated and stuck in our homes, like, because this didn't fall apart till that started sort of easing up a little bit, and that's also the time that this really started heating up with the scams and stuff that was all kind of together at the same point. But I to any who have decided to listen, who maybe have been sent this, I hope that you have found your safe space, that you found something or someone you can at least go to, because unfortunately in this world, it's very rare to be able to trust in real life and online people, because there's there's just a lot of negativity anymore. And I think this group kept us up all afloat during a time that was difficult, and stayed difficult for a while. And it's not quite the same to go to a book club. You can't quite
No.
message everybody and be like, hey, I'm having a hard day, send me things, and they'll be like, really? Why are you asking me that? It's not quite the same type of trust element that other people have. One thing I did want to ask, like, with this group ending, how has it been with you with other online or even in real life groups? Like, how has it been with trusting? How has it been with trying to integrate? Like, do you feel like more gun shy with things? Like, are you just more hesitant with being able to connect with others?
For me, I 100% hesitant. Like, I invested a lot of time in the group and different things that, you did for, the two little leaders that made all this implode. Um, for me, it was more of E rather than M. I wasn't involved in a lot of what M did, but E, on the other hand, is a whole other story. But a lot of time and that you invest in somebody that you think, has the same and not even just interest, just the same beliefs that you do, kind of thing, about the community and stuff, and realizing they were just the most horrible person. Like, just narcissistic, like, just so many things.
Yeah.
So I haven't even tried to broach like going into other kind of nerdy groups or anything like that online. I don't even fathom going and doing that. It's just because we run so bad. Like, and I don't think anything can honestly recreate or replace the feelings that we had when it was good. Like, and I loved the kind of high we had of that we had with everybody, but even at its peak when everything was great, I will still remember the bad and the implosion of everything. And it's not something I'm willing to put myself in and through again. So I just stay very clear of groups and stuff. In my real life, I think it's easier when you're like around somebody to read their energy and kind
Sure.
of weed that out. So I'm not as hesitant in my actual life and but online, no, not trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, it was hard for me to be, that open and involved with people to begin with. I'm just a very introverted person who, due to issues from my past, didn't trust easily to begin with. So to develop that deep of a trust and then have it taken advantage of, uh, really is very damaging. So I'm in other groups online, but it's not the same. It's hard for me to make myself be involved. My mom is in a group that I'm in too, and they do gift exchanges and write letters and stuff, and she's really built herself a community out of that. But I just can't bring myself to get that involved again yet.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. I know I'm not in very many Facebook groups anymore. There's a couple. Like, I'm in a Baldur's Gate 3 group that's pretty nice, but it's still not the same level of, like, when you post, people are nice. They have certain rules. You can't be mean. You can't do certain things. And people are really supportive and cool about it. But it's definitely not the same level of friendship. Like, I don't know anybody in the group, like they would
Mhm.
never know my address. They would never send me a Christmas present. It's just more for funsies to check, and I've tried to join some like Discord servers, and I usually end up leaving because it's too many flashbacks, like too many personalities, too many people trying to control. Like, I actually tried to join a Discord group that was a decolonization book club, and I was really excited about it because my first master's is actually in sociology in that similar vein, and I was so excited. And I was told I was a know-it-all because I knew too much, even though again my master's is literally in that. And then they got mad at me because I was trying to like point out some things and how they weren't really doing the work, that they just wanted to kind of like to look good and pretend that they were doing the work. And I was like kicked out basically. Because they couldn't handle it. And it was, there was, you could not criticize, and that's kind of how the group felt so much towards the end. You know, in the beginning you could do a little bit, and then people started really doing like more witch hunty type stuff. And we're going to talk about mob mentality in another episode coming up soon. But it was that same thing where at the moment that started happening, I was like, oh God, like, you know, you can't even point out like, hey, this is not what I was told the point of this group was. And then I had people personally messaging me nasty things. I had to block people. And so like I tend to lurk in groups now. Like I used to kind of lurk. I can't even handle group chats because it's so triggering with that same kind of thing, with like the too many personalities, people being mean, feeling like if I say anything, I'm going to be immediately attacked. Like it, you know, especially being in that book club where it was just, you know, I thought it would be cool. And they had actually just left a group that had tried to be a sex cult. All those people were like coming away from a group where their leader was actively trying to start like a big poly group with the whole group members. And they were telling me about it. And I was like, hey, I'm about to start this podcast, because it was right before we did our first episode. And I was telling them about it. And then their group started devolving into a similar format, to the point where I was like, is this just what ends up happening with certain groups? Like, I could not wrap my head around it, to where I will only join certain discords if I know the person who's starting it personally, if I know most of the people really well. Like, I'm in a book club group with someone who's actually a TFP member, and she runs it. I know her. There's only like 10 people in that group or something. It's very small. It's fine, and it's just a regular book club. It's not a politically based or anything. Um, but like there are some big ones that I just lurk in because I want the announcements about stuff, you know, because it's like, you know, content creators or something. But half the time I just end up leaving them because I'm like, I don't want to get involved
Yeah.
and then go through this again. I
Yeah.
can't do that again. And it breaks my heart because I'm sure there's probably plenty that would be fun, but I just cannot handle that many personalities anymore, especially when someone ends up trying to control it.
Yeah.
Someone tries to, or they are a leader, but they're not good at it. They don't stop the nasty
Yeah.
that's going on. They don't moderate well. And it just gets to the point where I'm like, got to protect my vibes. I can't be around it.
Yeah,
That's the
I
part.
No. I had left the group for a little bit when it started to get to the point of implosion. And this was after House Cup stuff. Again, like I was heavily involved in it as being one of the um, house leaders for it. And I was just like, I gotta step back. It's too much. And everybody kept on reaching out to me. They're like, oh, it's changed. We weeded so and so out. It's gotten better. It's better. It's better. And I'm like, okay. And so I sent an invite to come back in. And before I was even allowed back in, like one of the triplets had messaged me and was like interrogating me on, why did you leave? Was it because of so and so? And da 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 da. Are you linked to this person? Were you associated with this? And then completely asking me a different question about a subgroup I was in that I had an issue with, somebody that ran that wasn't doing things well. And I left that group and I'm like, how does this have to do with what's in this group? Like, so yeah, it was an interrogation before I was even allowed back in. And I was just like, what is going on right now? And that should have been like my thing to be like, you don't want back in. Like, you don't do
Right.
it, don't do it, Jessica. But I had so many, like, they wanted me back. They're like, no, come back, come back, come back. And, you know, you had great relationships with the majority of those people. And so it's just like, okay, I went through the interrogation to allow me back in the group because I wasn't associated with X, Y, and Z that went on. And it was probably not, yeah, in the end, that wasn't the best move. I should have just stayed away. So,
Yeah, I think that when they devolve like that, I think it is definitely like you can see it, but you can't see it as well as when you're middle of it. Like, and now similarly to everybody else, I stray away from it. I mean, the only groups you'll really see me in is the shitposting groups. Shout out Twilight Sewer. Like, like, but that's what I mean, is that, like, because you don't have to really be active in there, you get to see the funny stuff, and then that's it. Like, and then you know that the group's going to stand on business when it comes to certain things, which I think all appreciate. But, like, I think that when it's like that and it's good, it's good. And yeah.
Yeah. It's I think social media has taken such a turn, especially in the last, I want to like say about 4 or 5 years, to where, we're all old enough to remember when Facebook was just for college students, and then they started letting everybody on, and then it started having all this misinformation, and it's just hard to even be on social media in general. I'm having a little internet reconnection. I'll
Oh
edit
yeah,
this part out.
social media has gotten very toxic. I think people forget that there's another human on the other end of that screen.
Yeah. It's like the same when I used to work in a call center, like in college, and like people would be so polite to you in person. If there was an issue, they'd, be like, yes, ma'am, or whatever. And then the moment you're on the phone, and I've heard other call center people say this, that they struggle with people being meaner. They
Yeah.
struggle with people who will cuss them out, and when I was working in the call center, I had a lady say I can't repeat it because I don't want to get like flagged by socials. All because her husband got her a gift card and she couldn't use it immediately. I worked for a salon. She wanted a massage and they were booked out. And I was like, oh, but we can get you in this day. And she like flipped out on me as if it was like personally my fault. And we had to ban her from the salon because of what she said to me. But I'm like, $20, if she had been in front of me, she would have never said those things, because you forget who's on the other side of that screen. You forget they're a human. And so much of social media is bots now anyway, that are meant to trigger, they're meant to stress you out, and they're coming from all these bot farms all over the world. And to even know if someone's real or not, much less, being able to express yourself. Like so many of my socials, I have to limit comments or whatever because I don't want 80,000 red pilled bots to comment some stupid crap.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm stressed out. Like, I made a post the other day on Threads about my aunt and uncle being awesome. And I can't tell you how many I got something like 30 to 40 nasty comments and then a bunch of nasty like DMs, to where I blocked like a good several dozen people that day. And I had to take the post down because it just was too stressful. And it was literally not a mean post at all. It was complimenting my aunt and uncle.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
And
know what's going on with the internet, but
yeah,
we took a dive lately I mean, I know it was always there. God, do I know it was always there, but somebody opened the gates at some point in the last 5 years, I think, and it's just gotten horrible.
yeah.
Horrible.
And all of it's like that. Like
Yeah.
I stopped using TikTok. I mostly just use it for this podcast. I don't use it personally. I obviously left X/Twitter a
Mm-hmm.
long time ago. I really just use Instagram and Facebook. Like I use Threads mostly just to kind of touch base with certain elements, but I don't even have a Blue Sky. I don't have any of these other ones they're trying to create because it's just too much all the time, and if
Oh,
if I didn't have my business stuff and I didn't have this podcast, I probably wouldn't be using socials hardly at all. Like I'll use the messenger function to talk to friends, but
that's about it.
anymore, yeah. And it's because even your For You pages are full of junk,
Yes.
full
Oh,
of
I'm an
just
advocate.
ads
I'm an
and
advocate
oh,
for taking a social media break. Like,
mhm.
notorious for dropping and deactivating for 6 months.
Yeah,
Like, you and I have talked about this. If
yeah,
it wasn't for the podcast,
yeah,
I wouldn't be on social media because it's just not healthy. Like, you're just bombarded with so much crap all of the
yeah.
time, and you get it enough in daily life. between the world events right now and everything else, life is hard. Why
Yeah.
are we making it harder?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I'm an advocate. And if you're listening to this and you think you're sitting there going, well, it might be better for my mental health to take a break, take a break. You can always come back. You are not going to miss anything drastic, that nobody's going to not let you know what's going on. You're going to get a text, I bet, from somebody if it's that drastic. Take a break, take the break, take a month, Facebook will automatically reactivate you after 7 days unless you specifically hit a button saying, I'll come back on my time.
Yeah.
You can take the break. It's going to be okay, especially if you're at that point where you're not either starting to feel like you can't go an hour without looking at it. That's a massive red flag where it's time to take a break. Or if you're starting to notice that you're in a negative headspace all the time, take the break. It's going to be okay. And at the end of the day, you're going to thank yourself for it. And worst case scenario, log in and listen.
Yeah. And most cell phones have functions now where you can limit app use, you can set time limits, you can shut them off, you can remove them from the homepage, but you still keep all your data in there so you don't have to like relog back in. There's a lot of options and ways to set those boundaries for yourself, because humans, we were not meant to absorb this much information all the time. And, it's taken, the internet used to be such a fun place, like MySpace. Most of us are old enough to remember that. MySpace was so much fun. Facebook used to be fun. All these social apps used to be so much fun. And now, between the bots and the nastiness and everything else, that safe space of the internet is just not safe anymore, and you can't leave kids on anything, much less us as full grown adults. I have weekends where I purposely leave my phone. I call it the phone basket, and I'll put my phone in the basket. And if it's a call that I need to take up, it will pop on my smartwatch and I can go and grab it if it's something that is important. But otherwise, I'll check later. I'll use the do not disturb function, reduce interruptions function. There's lots of ways to protect yourself, because unfortunately, safe spaces are, even in real life, are becoming few and far between. The
Yeah.
world is a very different, angry place. And unfortunately for our listeners, Jessica's internet, I think, went out and we've lost her. So hopefully she'll be able to pop back in here towards the end. So I'd like to hear her take on this too. But, it's just, it makes me very sad.
Yeah.
Because there are so many people who really liked using the internet for these spaces, people with disabilities, people with social anxiety. It's a little easier to branch out this way. And unfortunately, it's just gotten to a point where I know some people are predicting in the next 5 years, social media just won't be a thing anymore. It'll just have become too toxic and it'll kind of collapse. And honestly,
Would that be the worst thing?
I don't think so. I really don't. As a
No.
sociologist, one thing I've talked a lot about is the third space. Like, this group was our third space. And
Yeah.
for our listeners who don't know what that means, is your first space is your home, your second space is your work, and then your third space is your social. And it used to be, back in the old days, that's what happy hour was for. That's what bowling clubs, other groups like your book clubs, your women who would have sewing groups,
Yeah.
like lots of different, you had a social thing. Going to the mall in the 80s was your third place, because you had movies and restaurants and shopping, and we had third places you physically would go to. And then in the last, there's a lot of sociology study like mall decline and those kinds of declines, where you look at Friends, they go to the coffee shop, that's their third space, and this show Cheers was about a bar, that was the third space. And now all of those things have become such commodities, where like Starbucks, a lot of them don't have seats anymore,
Yeah.
because you're not meant to sit there. They want you to buy your stuff and go, buy your stuff and go, like get in, get out. And so most people's third space became the internet. And now that is being slowly eroded away. So that sense of community is just starting to really tear itself apart. And that's why a lot of people are pushing for you need to find a third space. A couple of my friends own a brewery here in town, the Old Louisville Brewery. And they are amazing people who are constantly having activities. They do like an adult show and tell where you can bring stuff in. They're always trying to do stuff. because they want to be that third space for people, even sober people, they do mocktails and things like that because they're like, everyone needs a place to go. You need somewhere to go and feel connected. You need to go somewhere where people know who you are and you feel welcome. That's not just going working home, working home. So you can have that decompression. That's a big thing in Europe. That's a huge thing there. Things are walkable. You can walk down to your local stuff and sit at the coffee shop or sit wherever and have conversations with people. And so for anyone who's listening, find your third space. Find a real life third space. Find somewhere to go, even if it's just once a week, to build that community up and find a safe space. Like trusting that again is, I think, so valuable and so important. And, for many of us, this group was that third space. And when you take that away, it creates a lot of mistrust. It creates a lot of anxiety and sadness and everything else. And, it's heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking. Yeah. I'm going to check to see if Jessica's messaged us real quick.
Yeah.
Hopefully y'all can still hear me.
Yeah. But yeah, that safe space, that third space is key, guys. And at the end of the day, like, unfortunately in North America here, we are limited because of location. And, unfortunately with the economy right now where we're at, it's even harder, but there are places that you can go, you can find that space. And at the end of the day, you're going to feel better for it. Even if it's just going for a walk, even if it's just like, window shopping or whatever it is you do, get out and just do it. Because if our predictions are correct and your social medias are not here anymore, what are you going to do? Because you need that space. And it's not for anybody else, but it's for you. Because you need that community. We all do. And even though I think a lot of us within this specific situation were significantly hurt and were almost damaged in that way, we can still do it, and we're still trying to do it. And I just think that that's important for people within this sphere to remember, that at the end of the day, it is important to have, those people within your 1 and 2 spaces, but having that third space, having your safe space that is not just your home or your work, is going to be beneficial to the point where you're going to notice it within yourself. And it's scary. I'm not going to say it's not scary, because it is scary the first time you do it and the second time you do it, but then eventually it's going to get a lot easier, and then you're just going to notice that it feels better, and you're going to wonder whatever you did without it. So do us a favor and try to find it if you do nothing else.
And it's I think it's so important to right now, especially when you are so stressed, to have local people that you can connect with. Like I don't want to get too into the current events like too much, but here in the United States, SNAP benefits are set to not be active for November, which obviously November is Thanksgiving and it's the start of the holiday season here. And a lot of my local groups are posting like doing grocery buddy, where like you take someone to the grocery and help at least get them some essentials and stuff like that, building that community support. Community gardens are setting up ways to help feed people, like how do we donate? And that's one of the biggest ways to combat this kind of stress, this kind of current overwhelming fear of what's going on in the world, is to be able to have someone to call and say like, I need help. I need this and that.
And even if you want to trade, if you make bread really well and somebody's got chickens, there you guys go.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. 100%. Yeah. So I'm trying to get Jessica set back up with us. She's having trouble getting logged back in. If you all can still hear me while I'm checking her message.
You bet.
It's not letting her, unfortunately, back in. Yeah, unfortunately, we won't have her back in. I don't know why it's not letting her. She keeps getting a message. So let me see if either one of you want to kind of keep chatting. I'm gonna see about getting her like a final message.
That's technology. It's great until it isn't.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's why it's not a solid safe space.
Yeah, that too. And then, I mean, I don't know if you know about the solar flares that are going to mess up satellites and things like that, which they already do currently. And, so I'm asking her if there's a final message she wants me to convey, because unfortunately we can't get her, pardon me, logged back in. But, I want to thank both Carrie and Jessica for joining us today, because I think that's another aspect to cults people don't understand is so many of us want to feel community.
Mm-hmm.
And as the world has changed so much from having so much community to, really feeling so disconnected from people, that's why the internet being a new recruitment tool for cults is such a big deal, because it's a lot easier to get people involved this way because of that lack of connection, of that in-person feeling the vibes, body language, all that stuff. And then we just aren't meeting in person as much. There are people trying to change that, but they are seeing social media numbers drop because of these kinds of issues that we've brought up today. Not just cults, but the bots and the negativity and being overwhelmed. And their Gen Z is largely not buying smartphones as much anymore. There's a whole group of them that are buying analog, like flip phones and like the old Nokias and stuff that you can still get, because they want to be able to call somebody, but they also don't need to feel connected through a bajillion apps all day. So there is definitely a big change in movement. She said she doesn't really have a final message to share, but she feels that we covered this pretty well. So, hopefully, I think we have covered this topic pretty thoroughly, because I knew this was going to be kind of a one that brings up a lot of emotion. I'm sure I'll get a lot of messages on our socials after this one, because it did make us feel so welcome.
It did.
Yeah, it's a hard one emotionally because of exactly that. And I think that it's okay if you're still struggling with that. And I think that, we might for a long time, in getting out and finding that third space might even cause a little bit more of a setback. But at the end of the day, I really want to drive home that it's not your fault if you were in this situation and you fell victim effectively. I don't always love that within this sphere, but if you were part of this and you suffered because of it, that's not on you. And that's something that I really like to drive home with this situation, is because if you think you found your community, it's not your fault that it got blown up by somebody else.
Yeah.
So I too want to echo thank you, Carrie, and thank you, Jessica, for dropping in today and talking about this, because it is such an emotional one. And thank you again, Persephone, for all of your work, and especially your social media work, because my goodness, you are something else for being able to do it, because God knows I couldn't.
Having to rejoin TikTok for this podcast ate a bit of my soul. I'm not gonna lie, because that I left for a lot of reasons, but it was just one of those all right. Carrie, is there anything else you'd like to share before I wrap us up today?
No, I would just want to say, to anybody who, it's not your fault that someone else takes advantage of your kindness. And you can't, it's okay to be more cautious, but you can't completely hold yourself back because of it.
Yeah, 100%. Well, again, thanks to everyone today. Again, we knew this would be an emotional one. Unfortunately, most of our episodes are going to be on the more emotional side as we're getting more into the topic. And I'm already thinking of more episodes as we're discussing this. But Thank you to all of our listeners, anyone who has shared, listened, subscribed, all of that good stuff. Please continue to follow us for more episodes. Again, if you have further information or anything you'd like to share with us, please reach out. Our link tree and email will be in the description boxes for all of our socials and everything else. And I'm wearing my Witch Please sweater because we're recording right around Halloween time. So I'm hoping to drop this around Halloween weekend, as long as I get on the ball with editing. So happy Halloween to anyone who celebrates. And as we get into the holiday season, we will probably record one more episode before we take a break around Christmas time. We'll be doing our seasons in 5-episode chunks, with usually a little break in between with like some, like I said, the mini episodes. So, now we've kind of found our rhythm with scheduling and getting people being able to do that. So thanks to everybody. And I hope everybody has a good week, and we will see you all soon.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions or a story of your own about this organization, please feel free to email us. Our email will be linked in the description box. If you have experienced any trauma or abuse, please dial 988 for the crisis hotline. You are not alone. Please join us with our next episode, where we will be continuing to discuss what took place and how people are feeling about it today.